Now that's my success for the night, but the onus is on you to really shine, because I hear you've been polishing up some money over there. So is that legal? You can just, shine it up and.
They say to make money, you need to have money, and you can sell money for more money, believe it or not.
Hey, money makes money, right? And sometimes little money makes big money, right? So guys, what we're going to talk about tonight, and thanks for being on. We've got participants on the live, and guys, just make sure you turn up the volume, because this valued tribe member is a kind of a soft-spoken dude, but I got it from high authority that he is wicked smart. And I was just telling our guests tonight that, kind of check out people before we give them the microphone in Amazon Cellar Tribe. And so I was conversing with our partner, Andy Slamans, and I said, Assad Siddiqi, and he's like, wicked smart, and I was, get this guy on there. So I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. So Assad, glad to meet you here face to face tonight.
Likewise.
So guys, what we're going to talk about tonight, and this is, I kind of prepped him on the idea that I'm totally ignorant of this entire subject. And I really honestly mean that. All I know about mint money is, I think that somebody decided to invest in silver coins one time for Colleen, and then it gave me some for birthday money, and it's currently worth less than they paid for it, I think. So I'm sure that's not the right way to do it, Assad. I'm fairly certain. So before we really get down into the heart and the meat of what we want to talk about tonight, flipping mint money, I want you to kind of introduce yourself, because you're one of the kind of guys that stays a little bit farther back in the tribe. And I just kind of pulled you out of the crowd there when I saw you flipping something there in the air, which looked like, we'll get to that story in a minute. I can't tell. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, shape your life for us. Tell us, where do you live? What's your life look like? What's your day to day look like? Because I know you still have something career wise that's totally different than what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, sure. So grew up in the Northeast, started out in Rhode Island, but I've been in Boston for about the last 20 years or so. In terms of like Amazon, I got introduced to the Amazon sandbox about 5 years ago. So I've been selling for a decent bit of time. Really rode the train really well. Got to experience Yeti back in 2015. Yeah. I bought the Eastern Seaboard out. That was an interesting exercise.
That's a whole story in itself, right there. I bet.
I sold a lot. Yeah. So I would say I have a mid-sized business. Probably, I'm not as big as most sellers in our group, or many sellers in our group. So I get around, like, this last year $650,000 in sales, and
Sweet. You got your purple lanyard, heading for a silver lanyard.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe that's the goal for this year for sure. But Amazon has always been kind of a side hustle for me. So, in my day job, I'm a healthcare executive. So I right now work as the VP of Finance for Tufts Medical Center. So it's a big job.
It is a very big job. This is, guys, he kind of just throws this out, but this is a very prestigious institution, a very prestigious institution. And his job is a very prestigious job. And you do have to be wicked smart to run in those kinds of circles, as well as spin a very nice size Amazon business, I might say. So anyway, I just wanted to pause there, because you were very humble, and I appreciate that. But that's also massively impressive.
Oh, thank
Continue,
you.
friend.
That's very sweet of you to say. So, like you said, it is a big job. I oversee $1 billion+ in my role. I have a couple of hundred people that report up through me. So it's a pretty big role, and I have a pretty sizable scope. It's really exciting too, because I'm really in a position where I'm steering an organization, really hopefully trying to move the needle on what we're doing to deliver healthcare successfully and combat things like coronavirus and all the
Sure.
other things that we have going on in the world.
Yeah, wow.
So, what else can I tell you guys a little bit about myself? I'm a big traveler, so I've been to 30 countries in the last 5 years. I
Wowzer.
wonder if I have a job sometimes, which is really exciting. I'm a big sports enthusiast. Skiing is kind of like one of the things that I'm super into, but I play tennis. I run basketball with my buds. I'm really kind of like trying to stay out there and be active as best I can. Um,
Nice.
yeah, what else can I tell you, Gay? I feel like that's kind of some of the major notes, but
Well, I think that sounds good to me. I mean, if I saw that on a resume, I'd say, yeah, I want to get to know this guy. Yeah, sounds like he's got a lot of energy, he's got a lot of intellect, and he's got a lot of enthusiasm for what he does. So that stands out to me. And tell us about how you landed in Amazon Cellar Tribe. Were you just kind of stumbling along the pathway and somebody threw a lasso in your way and you fell into it and got dragged into Cellar Tribe, or what happened to you?
yeah, it's a good question. So, I've kind of been, like I said, in the Amazon communities for about 5 years. I've been fortunate to build a lot of really great relationships, some of which with some people who have a really solid affiliation with the Amazon tribe, right? So Andy Slamans is someone who I've stayed in a house with in Vegas and have gotten to know him very well. Similarly, I've spent a lot of time with Steven Peterson. I got interviewed a couple of times for the e-commerce momentum podcast. Um, and I just know a lot of the players that are kind of a part of the group, and I've heard nothing but good feedback. So, I said, I've learned the value of surrounding yourself with other successful people, but also
Right.
other people who are willing to give and share. We can do more than we can do together. And I felt like this was one of those places where I would get that kind of dynamic.
Right, right, right. Well, and have you found it to be so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I was a Tribe 4 member, which was
Right,
like super
right.
exciting
Yep,
and interesting
right
to be a
here.
part of that.
Yep,
Yeah, there you go.
right
Hopefully
there.
I'm somewhere on there, right? Yeah, so I think it's been great, and I think that the community is just very giving. I find it really exciting to see the way that people are growing their businesses, but also the willingness to kind of share best practices, lessons learned, you
Right.
know, potholes that people may have stepped in, so you
Yeah,
don't have to go
yeah,
through that same journey, but it's really
right.
a solid community for sure.
Well, thank you for saying that, and we appreciate having you here. We appreciate it when people who have good caliber people find our community and then enter in and want to be a part of it. So let's get down to this crazy thought that's going through my head right now. The title of this webinar tonight is Flipping Mint Money. And the only thing I know about flipping money is when I would flip the, heads or tails to try to see who got to be first at bat when me and my brothers were playing baseball, or playing sports together out in the cow field next to the house. And so flipping mint money, though, that's got to be something totally different. So first, define for me, if you can. I know you can. Define for me, what does that mean, mint money? That term, mint money.
Sure. Yeah. So you alluded to something that's really important, which is there's a lot of different investment vehicles that people can consider. And one of them that has been around for a long time are the precious metals. So that spans from, the things that you probably know about and many people have interacted with. So silver and gold being the two most popular things. But there's also opportunities to buy things like platinum or palladium or rhodium, which for the purposes of today's conversation, we can leave all of that to the side. But suffice to say, there's this whole market around sort of building and maintaining your wealth through investments in precious metals.
Gotcha.
What happened as people started to gravitate towards considering this as one of their alternative investment vehicles, different governments picked up on the fact that, hey, this is a way that we can make some money. So the first gold coin was actually something called the Krugerrand, which came out of South Africa, and that was back in the 1960s. But since then, there's been a number of other government mints. The Canada has a mint, the UK has a mint, Australia has them, and of course, we in the United States also developed our own program around this as well. So in the United States Mint, really what they're doing is they've got a bunch of different types of products that they release. And this is where kind of the investment side of this goes away. And now we'll talk a little bit more about the flipping opportunity, because ultimately what happened is as people started making more of these different coins, they realized that we're starting to get more towards a niche of collectors, right? And people don't want to have 10,000 of the same thing. A lot of times people will collect these types of things because they have different designs and because
Gotcha.
they have different themes, or they're a part of a series. So what ultimately really happened was, over the course of time, there's still always going to be this investment side of precious metals, which is kind of described as the bullion business. We're
Gotcha.
not really going to look to that as sellers and something that we could capitalize on for arbitrage. We're really thinking about this more in kind of the collector niche. So
Gotcha.
in the coin world, what it's described as is really we're trying to get into the numismatic side of the coin business, which is, again, this collector sort of
Right.
effect.
So it's like instead of the coin as the value of gold or the value of silver or something along that line, it's the value of that actual coin itself and the design and how it was minted and where it was minted, and maybe even what it means in relation to a series. So that's what sets this apart.
100%.
Gotcha.
Precisely, right? A good analog that I'm sure a lot of people have followed along with the group is some of Jameson's journey with Pokemon cards, right?
Right.
The average Pokemon card isn't necessarily worth that much money, but if you land on the right one that's got a collector value to it and it's in excellent condition, you can turn that sucker for a lot of money.
Yeah, you saw his excitement on some of those nights when he was opening his Pokemon packs, and when he scored and when he thought he scored.
Yep.
So yeah, so I can see that. So it's a collector kind of frenzy that goes on to have that coin. And then you talked about um, in excellent condition. You talked about this is not money that's going to be in circulation, though, is this?
So no, none of these coins are technically meant for circulation, right? But remember, the coin business really goes back to hundreds of years ago, because gold and silver have been used as currency for quite some time. So basically what happened was, over the course of time, people started to want to be able to compare different things against one another. So there was ultimately a rating system that was developed for coins. So a coin can be any place from a score of 0, which is basically like, I can't even see the face of the coin. It's like probably mostly like the regular currency that we may use in our day-to-day lives.
Like the Lincoln pennies that got run over by the railroad, run over by a train, right? So it's you can't see what it means.
Yeah, all the way up to 70, which is described as like the perfect coin, both in terms of luster, but like there's no nicks on it. And the way that they determine this is there's actually rating agencies who you have to send your coins to, and they will literally, with a microscopic loop at like multiple levels of magnification, check out the quality of that product and determine ultimately how perfect is it, because something can look perfect to our naked eye, but it's not going to pass muster to get this perfect grade of 70.
Interesting. So how do you keep it as perfect as possible as soon as it comes into your possession? You don't want to devalue it. So, and it's going to be somewhere in that 0 to 70 as soon as it comes into your possession. How do you make sure it doesn't come into your possession as a 50 and end up as a 30?
Sure, great question. So it starts with, where are you getting the coin from, right? Because if you're buying something directly from the US Mint that is a new issue, it's first and foremost going to come to you in typically very good condition to start with, right? And you're going to expect most of the things that are going to come out of the mint are going to be like 68 to 70. So we're talking about basically perfect to the naked eye.
Gotcha.
When you get them, they also come in these little plastic cases which protect them. The whole idea is that you really don't want to be touching the coin, messing with the coin. So let's say you happen to come across a coin that you're looking to go through this process with, and you feel like it might be worth some money. One of the first things I would recommend that somebody does with that is that they actually protect it appropriately by buying these things called capsules, which just fit perfectly around your coin. And until you're ready to do something with it, leave it in the capsule. You can still
Right.
pick up the capsule, you can play with it, which is some of the fun of having a
Right.
coin,
Yeah.
right?
Kind of look at it and admire it and
Yeah, yeah.
shine the light on it. And
Exactly. But ultimately, that's really going to be the way that you're going to try to protect your potential investment and make sure that it doesn't get jacked up. Like, what you don't want to do is like throw it in your pocket with a bunch of other
right,
quarters
right,
that you might have. Like
right.
anything else that you feel might be valuable, take a little time to protect it as needed.
Yeah. Treated as precious. So it begs the question, of course, then, as all sellers, as all sellers do, where do you find them? How do you find them? How do you know to find them? I guess first we'll have to identify what the M is. What M's are them's? How do I know what I'm looking for? I can, with Amazon sellers, when it was the Frozen Elsa and Anna rage, you were in on that because you've been
Yep.
in Amazon long enough. So when all of that hit, everybody was whispering to everybody else where you can find the honey hole of Frozen. So how do you know how to find the honey hole of where these kinds of coins can be?
Great question. So, what I'll say is that there's riches in the niches, but to understand the niches, you need to invest some time. Okay. So what happens is that the US Mint releases coins all of the time. You can go onto their website and you can look at their product release schedule, and you're literally going to get a flavor for everything that's going to be coming down the pipe in this calendar year.
Gotcha.
The vast majority of the things that they are going to release are truly for collectors. So if you buy them, in all likelihood, you're going to lose money on them.
Interesting.
Now, what we don't have necessarily in this niche is some of the tools and technologies that we've become accustomed to on Amazon.
Right.
The major thing that we can use, though, is indications of potential success based on a couple of things, right? One is there's going to be products that tend to perform better than others, and those are things that are popular in the collectible and coin market. So in the case of American coins, there's really three coins that matter. There's something called the American Silver Eagle, there's the American Gold Eagle, and there's another coin called the American Buffalo. That doesn't mean that some other things that might be released aren't going to be of value, but as you scroll through that product schedule, a real good place to start is by looking for any iteration of those three types of coins. Now, why do they matter? Because the mint has been producing them for so long. They are really ultimately held up as one of the standards. They're also coins and currencies. So while you should never actually use these things to go and buy toilet paper at your
Right,
local
right.
pharmacy. You could,
You
right?
could,
I
right.
have a gold coin that's worth $50. I mean, it's worth
Gotcha.
$1,800 and change, but I could spend it for $50, you know? And if anybody
Right.
wants to spend that coin for $50, come talk to me first.
Call,
I'll give you
call, call me
75
first,
for it.
right?
Yeah.
That's right. I'll make you some money and me some money.
Yeah. So it starts with kind of identifying, you know, what might be a product that has some potential. And that one of the ways that you do that is you look for the popular things.
Gotcha.
Another thing that you can look at is there's an element of scarcity that really plays
Sure.
into what makes a good flip, both in Amazon, but also certainly in this space. And the
Right.
way that you can kind of get a handle on whether there's going to be some scarcity around this item is based on something called the mintage. So that's how many of a coin the United States Mint plans to release. And in
Oh,
general, the lower that number is, so, you know, for example, the coin that I made a lot of really good money on, they released less than 2,000 of them.
oh,
So
wow. So we're going to talk about that coin in just a minute. So let's not leave that on the
put a pin in
let's
that.
leave it on the table, but let's not bring it to the microphone yet. But less than 2,000, and you knew in advance that it was going to be less than 2,000 coming out, correct?
So on that like product schedule, it'll lead you to all of the product pages, and the Mint will tell you, this is how many of these things we are planning to release. And, you know, generally for most things, if they're releasing like less than 10,000 of them, there could be this element of exclusivity. Now,
Right.
all of those things are really just going to kind of give you some indicators of things that
Gotcha.
might have potential, right?
Yeah,
So
those are
now we
just
have
kind of hints or clues, not data guarantees.
correct, right? And to some degree that there is a bit of ambiguity around, you know, how good of a flip can you find all of the time with this, right?
Right.
Like the one that I'll share a story on was like an absolute freaking home run for me and was a wild ride. But I've flipped other coins along the way and I've made great gains, but not necessarily to the same degree. I've also had, you know, some break even or like maybe losing a little bit of money situations too. So I took my lumps, as all of us need to do when we're kind of
Right.
entering a new space and learning how it works.
Right.
So we found something now that has some potential, right? Like, hey, it's maybe one of these popular coins. It's something that has a little bit of a lower mintage. Now what happens is you need to start to think about, you know, what is the resale potential for this
Uh-huh.
particular item.
Uh-huh.
So the
So this
best
is kind
way
of
that
like
I've,
diving into some Keepa data, maybe, huh?
yeah,
That
yeah, I
kind of
wish,
analogy,
I wish there
right?
was a
So
Keepa
you don't
K.
have
I
a
wish
Keepa tool, but wish we did, right?
I wish you did. You know, someone should develop that. There might be some money behind it, right?
Right.
So what I do is, you know, collectibles tend to be more of an eBay-based product, right? So what you can do is, let's say we know that there's a coin that's going to be released on January 31st.
Gotcha.
Normally what'll happen is, you know, I'm not the first person to figure this out. A lot of people, you know, sell and do this type of a business model. And what they'll do is many of those folks will post items for sale on eBay before they've actually been released.
Ooh,
So it's a little bit
interesting.
of like a pre-order kind of mechanism. And what you can do is if the pre-orders look to be
Gotcha.
profitable, that's a real good indicator for you that maybe I should pick this sucker up myself, because in all likelihood that will likely carry through to the sales that happen pretty soon thereafter the coin's release.
Interesting. Ay, ay, ay. So they actually can list it before they have it in their possession?
They can, yeah. And I think that it's I'm not sure if this is like against eBay terms of service. I'm not a big eBay person. So, and I personally am not in the business of trying to list something before I have
Sure.
it. So whatever they do, they make it work. But yeah, they certainly do, Gay. They list them up
Wow.
there well before, you know, anybody could have bought it. And they're not even guaranteeing necessarily
That
that
you
you
get it.
can get one. They're just
But if you start seeing a lot of activity on that coin or those listings, you know, people viewing them, or can they bid on them at that point, or
So I'm looking at sold completed listings. So they are like done and dusted. The bidding has happened. The buyer now has been processed. You know, I try to stay away from the speculation game
gotcha.
because eBay just has a lot of variability in terms of the way that they offer their products. And I don't feel like a bunch of listings is going to translate into a bunch of sold listings necessarily.
Right, right. So you start tracking the listings. So you know this coin's coming out. You're tracking the listings, interest in the listings, so on and so forth. How many people are buying up those coins, and you can kind of gauge the hunger, the appetite for it. If the appetite looks good, then you might get in the game and try to throw your hat in the ring and see if you can snag one of those fancy little coins.
You
How do
betcha.
you snag a fancy little coin?
Ooh, so I'm a little old school with how I've been successful snagging my coins, but you know, it's really analogous to probably many like hot items that we may have tried to buy. So if you know any of you out there have tried to get on the Xbox train during this
Right.
past holiday season or PS5,
Exactly.
you'll know that that's a pretty frustrating purchasing experience, right?
Right.
So,
Press refresh and they're gone.
and the sites are crashing. It's a giant dumpster fire, right? Like, so, you know, what you do is first and foremost, you make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as best you can. So create your login, have your credit card information saved in there, put your address in, so on and so forth, right? You are trying to minimize the number of
Right.
clicks and the torment that you're going to have to put yourself through in trying to acquire this item. Then what you do is basically you log on to the website about 10 minutes or so before the release of the item, and you just roll the dice, and hopefully you can get one of these things into your cart and you can check out with that item in your cart. And I know there are some members of our group who tried to go through, you know, the purchasing process, and I'm sure they can share some of their frustrations with you, but it's far from a guarantee. Now,
But at some point, you win.
you do. You do.
Oops. All right. Camera's frozen.
Cameras, can you
Is it
still
my
hear me?
camera or your camera?
I see you frozen as well, Guy. Hold on.
Okay, hang on just a second. Did we lose you, Assad?
I'm still here. Can you hear me? Okay. Whoops. So for those still on, I'm going to find Gay. I think she must have stepped off for a second. Okay, so while I try to get her back, I'm just going to keep talking and hopefully you guys can hear me. Sorry about that. You're muted, Gay.
All right. Can you hear me now?
We're back. Sorry, little technical hiccup, but we're
I
back.
don't even know what happened with that. It's just like you froze and I was talking to myself, and then I don't know if it was my internet that went off or the whole grid went down. I don't know.
Well, we're back, so that's what's most important, right?
That's right. So now you're trying to beat the crowd. This is a Black Friday sale and everybody's elbowing for that 70-inch TV. But we're doing it online. And are there some ways we can give ourselves advantages? I mean, other than getting your address in, your credit card in, and those sorts of things? Or does it really just kind of come down to comes down to the luck of the draw?
So there's two things I think that people could do to try to increase their chances. I mean, first thing is there's power in numbers. So I tend to try to get a bunch of people to go through the process of buying with me, right? Like, and if there's 10 people trying to buy one coin, hopefully one of them will actually end up
Right.
getting
So
ripped.
you're sending every part of your team out into the field to get all of those frozen, all of those Yetis you got. What year was that? 2015?
Yeah, yeah.
20?
Well, I mean, I had a pretty good Yeti year this last year too. So I
Oh,
mean,
you did. Okay. Well, we can't put the Yetis to bed yet. You just sent your whole team everywhere looking for that. So now you got your whole team press and refresh about 10 minutes before the coin drops.
you betcha. And I go even deeper than my team. Like it's really easy to talk your parents through this, significant other. Really, you're just telling them to buy one thing on one website. They don't need to learn anything else about the background. You're just trying to get them to secure this item for you because you've done the homework and all the rest of that hoopla, right?
Gotcha.
The other thing that people can do hypothetically, I have no experience in this, but a lot of people buy bots and they use
Right.
bots to purchase things. So I'm not the best guy to opine on whether or not that would be a successful mechanism in this example or more generally, but certainly it's one of those solutions that exists in the ecosystem.
Sure, sure, sure. So there's always going to be some technology guru try to give themselves the advantage on this. But let's talk about some of those bots kind of went up against Assad Fast Fingers earlier this year, or let's say last year, a couple of months ago. And Fast Finger Siddiqui won.
Oh yeah, I'm
What
man
happened?
versus machine, man versus machine, right? Like
Versus machine. So let's talk about that coin now.
yeah, so the coin in question was one of those popular coins that I referenced, right? So I actually bought both the silver and gold, but the gold is the one that we'll talk about today. So it was the gold American Eagle, right? So one of those really popular coins. And what it happened to have was a very small, it's a little tiny mark that's just on the corner of the coin that's called the privy mark. So for you or I, probably doesn't make much of a distance to these collectors that are out there and they want to have one of every type of gold eagle. Man, they went crazy for it, okay?
Wow. So it's
So
just a minted mark on the coin, but it's a special mark on the coin that's purposefully put there. They know it's coming. It's going to round out their collection of these particular gold eagles or silver eagles, but this one's your gold eagle, right? So it's going to round out their collection. So now there's a frenzy of fire on this one.
yeah, and in particular, why this one had some degree of significance is the V75 was a World War II commemoration, right? So
I
a lot of
get
people in the coin world are sometimes a little bit on
older,
later
right?
stages of life. So this really was something that resonated with the collector population.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
again, like I said, there was only 1,945 of these things made. They
Wow.
sell millions of gold eagles every year. So to give you an idea of the population that wants this coin versus the number of coins that was made available, this was hotly sought after and many collectors wanted to get their hands on.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So, so with with coins, flipping mint money is with collectors, there's also an element of the like the emotions get involved in this. Like I knew some guys I helped with the Branson collector car auto auction for several years. And those guys came in from all over the United States to buy that car because there was emotional connection to it. It meant something because of their first car they ever owned, or it was the first car they ever took their wife out in, or something like that. So there can be an element of emotion with these collectors, right?
100%, you know, and it's hard to put a value on a collectible, right? That's the other big thing to
Right.
recognize is, you know, in this case, it's worth what someone's willing to pay you for. And people were
Yeah,
willing
come
to
on.
pay a lot of money for these coins. So
Speaking of a lot of money for these coins, um, 1,944 coins are minted. Assad is on his computer, refresh all the computers. He has a bank of 10 or 20 computers within his reach, and he's banging all the keys. He's got, 10 or 12 other people doing the same for him. And all of a sudden, something comes up on the screen and it says, you got it. How much did you have to pay to get one of those 1,944 coins?
yeah, it's a great question. So the way that all of these prices kind of start are based to some degree on the spot price of the metal at the time.
Gotcha.
But in the case of this example, you know, so you're going to certainly pay the spot price, but typically the mint is going to charge you something on top of that called a premium. So I
Gotcha.
paid $2,600 a pop. I got two of the coins. I got one and one of my shoppers got one. So I ended up with two
Nice.
of these very hotly sought
Sweet
after coins.
potato.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, wow, the story got twice as good right there. So you end up with 2,600 times two in investment. You lay that money out. And then how long did it take you to roll that money and make any money on those coins?
Sure, good question. So, you know, if you need to turn something fast, right, the first thing that you can do is you can sell the coin as what they describe as raw. And what raw means is that it has not been graded, right? It's a confirmed, brandy new, got this from the mint, but we don't know where it is on that 0 to 70 scale. So when I was looking at these coins, really what I was seeing on eBay is that the raw versions were going for $8,000, $10,000.
Already.
All right. Like, so
Ooh.
big money, right? Like I'm already able to 3x my dollars right out of the gate. But since I'm in fortunately a decent position, I'm not cash strapped, you know,
Right.
I'm looking to maximize the
Sure.
return on this
Sure,
potential
sure. Yeah.
investment. So I
You
went,
got parked money, you're getting ready to multiply magnificently.
yeah. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go and send these things out to get graded because the graded coins were going for about $15,000 a pop. So in my
Bum,
mind,
bum,
waiting a couple
bum.
weeks for 5,000 more bucks felt like it was an absolute no-brainer at the end of the day.
Come on. So so you have to send them out to this place, this grading company or whatever. And like always kind of how's the nuts and bolts work? You put it in an envelope and ship it through USPS. Um, or not. There's got to be some way that you get it from your house to them for that grading process. What's the best way to do that?
So unless, you know, the companies are where they are, right? So there's two big players that do this grading. The one that I happened to use was something called NGC, which is the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. They're based out of Florida, and I mailed them the stuff, right? So that was a little anxiety provoking. Um, you insure those packages for
Oh yeah,
sure
yeah, yeah,
when you're
yeah.
mailing them, around. But, so I dealt with like all sorts of transit stress, right? Because the mint is sending me the coins. I'm sending the coins to these people to grade them. They're getting sent back to me. And then depending on how I ultimately sell them, I sold one of them locally, but I had to ship another one. So I like been shipping these things all the way around the country, and it was wild. But shipping with insurance, that's really the long and short of
Come
it.
on, as the best you can do.
Yeah.
Cross your fingers and hope for the best. So you sent it down to the company that grades these coins, and what did they come back and say about your particular coins?
So I was very lucky in that both of my gold coins came back with a perfect grade of 70. So that
Gold.
means I'm getting top dollar. My silver coins that I sent unfortunately didn't come back, but whatever. In the grand scheme of things, if I had to pick one to be perfect, I'm happy with the gold coin.
Yo, twice. Boom,
Yeah.
twice. So it comes back graded as perfect, and the market is looking like it's handling 15,000 or something like that for its value. And so now you make a listing on eBay. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, so again, I had two of them, and I was able to actually secure a private buyer for one of them. So that was just straight up 16,000 bucks for the coin, and I sold it to them at the peak of the market, and didn't have to deal with any fees or any of the rest of that nonsense.
Sweet.
The second, I did go through eBay. Now you can, especially if you have some really premium items, there are other options that you may consider. There's auction houses
Right.
that you can use that will really cater to you, take a lot of the risk out of the process. Because, one of the things that, I worry about being a seller is that, like, what happens if someone says I didn't get the coin?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like I just sold you something for 14, $15,000, and you're like, I didn't get it. Like, I don't know how to protect myself. Now,
Right, right, right.
fortunately, I was able to sell my second coin for 14,000 bucks on eBay, and the process went very smoothly. The guy was so gracious and appreciative, and like, we exchanged a lot of messages and communications before. He had wonderful feedback, so it went very smoothly ultimately, but it doesn't mean that it didn't keep me up a little bit when like I was going through the process.
So what you're saying is don't mortgage your house for the chance that you might land a coin that you might be able to flip for this kind of profit. Is that
Yeah,
what I hear you saying?
absolutely not, guy. Absolutely not. Now, if you could have gotten 1,000 of this gold coin or something, that I'm describing, like, as far as I can tell, again, I haven't been in this side of the arbitrage game for very long. 2020 was really the first time I dipped my toe in a meaningful way. But from talking to some, now I've gotten some contacts with coin dealers. They're like, this was the deal of a lifetime. So maybe if you could have gotten in on this one and gotten it in quantity, I would have said, yeah, that's a mortgage your house situation. But that's speaking with hindsight too, right?
Come
Like, it's
on,
a lot
come
easier
on.
to do that.
If
Like,
we were all prophets, we would have won the lottery long, long time ago, right? So
I mean, I approached it as, if I lose this money, if this thing gets lost somehow, whatever. It's not
I'm
going to
okay.
like be the end of the world for me.
That's right.
5,000 bucks is a lot of money, but I'm
Right.
fortunately in a place where I have
Right.
significantly more capital than that at my
Right.
disposal.
Right. So this wasn't a do or die situation. This really is a great opportunity to look at, perhaps for those who have some park money or would like to diversify some of their money. Or it could even be an opportunity really for someone who maybe they have a little insight into this and they would like to grow their insight a little bit more, and you're giving them a lot of good thoughts for doing that. I would think you're giving me thoughts for doing it. Um, and they could take a chance on a coin if they saw it was looking good and maybe end up making more money for Amazon. This could be a potential for building a little capital for them. Um, because I like the idea. This is what I kind of like is I like the idea that you're getting the coin You knew the signs were good and figured that out, but then that you're getting it, you have pretty much the same chance as some guy that has, you know, $200,000 net worth. You know, he's still having to have the same chance. I kind of like that, you know, kind of made it a little bit of a equal playing field, right? You
Yeah.
know, the guy in his tiny little 1 bedroom apartment, you know, his life's
In a
falling,
way, right? Yeah.
you know, and he's got the same chance as you. He's got the same chance as somebody with a mansion, you know, of getting one of these coins. Um, so that kind of excites me. So tell me too, while you're making that transaction or hoping to make that transaction, what would you say your adrenaline level is at that point?
Oof. So you're pretty amped up. I mean, like, you know, like you're in some ways like feeling like I'm winning the lottery or something, you know, like because it can, and it's also a real time of like, it's probably the closest I've ever been to being bipolar, right? Because like when it's not working for you, you are frustrated. You want to throw your computer across the room, break that sucker in half, do all of that, right? And then when you get it, you're just elated, like euphoric. You're like, did this really just happen? Like, what? I can't believe it. So yeah, it's
That's
wild.
awesome. That really is awesome. You know, that kind of thing kind of thrills me too. You know, I I'm a little bit, a teeny eensy beensy bit of a daredevil. You know, I had to finally sell my Trans Am because my sister worried every time I left for a road trip to Kansas City. She was like, "Oh Lord, please don't let her die on the highway and leave me with all this to figure out," you know. So I was like, "Oh, you know, I probably am going over 100 too many times." So I finally sold it. So I do kind of have that little bit of a thought that I want to get that adrenaline rush. So just thinking about getting in the game and doing something like you're doing here is kind of exciting to me. You made me want to study this, and I think also there's got to be some pleasure in for those collectors in possessing, you know, something that nobody else has. You know, it's like there's only
I mean,
1,944 people on the face of the earth that have this, and I'm one of them, right?
100%. And you know, and I would also say like for the tribe at large, right? Maybe this particular niche isn't something that, you know, is of interest to you. It's not very scalable, right? I'm glad I got 2 of these coins. I made 25 grand. I'm not going to be able to repeat that cycle multiple times over, unfortunately. But, you know, one of the other things that I really took away from this is, you know, the more that you are developing competency and the more barriers of entry and that you are able to sort of surpass, and as you develop that expertise, that's where your opportunities are going to present themselves. And the more specialized expertise that you are able to gain, the less competition is going to present itself to you. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, what I've really like started to do is broaden this approach to do things like I haven't quite gone down the Pokemon card hole yet, but I'll tell you, I've got
It's
50
looking
boxes.
pretty tempting.
I've got 50 boxes of one of the ones that like Jameson posted that I was just gonna flip, but now I'm thinking like maybe I have a Pokemon party one day and I see if I
Let's
can
get
pull
that
one
on
off.
video. Jameson, you hear that? Vroom, vroom to Assad's house. He's over there in Boston. Boston. Oops, I almost reeled out my Dan Wentworth accent on you right there. Teasing you, Dan. You're probably not even awake right now. I'm teasing you. Um, so yeah, it does kind of make you think, well, you know, kind of play around with that. And it really is the fun part of it is um it's kind of a little bit of work and it certainly could be profitable. Um, but it could be a great hobby too.
Yeah, for sure.
Does that kind of rest your mind sometimes? Because I know you're in a very, very important position, a very, very high stress position. It's got to be. I mean, your career is not an easy career, especially in light of how everything has gone with COVID and everything you guys have been facing up there. Um, So do you feel like this kind of is a little bit of a recess for you?
Sure.
Kind
Yeah,
of a hobby?
I'm very blessed, right, to have the professional opportunities that I've had. But yes, I have a high stress job, certainly at times. And really Amazon, all of my like little side ventures that I have, because I dabble in a lot of different things. Um,
We'll
they're
have to
all
have more conversations about
oh,
that.
for sure. I am happy to talk to you guys. One thing that maybe we should talk about at some point with the group is the ability to do time limited professional consulting engagements. Because I think there's some people in this group that could make a lot of money, and I've done very well with that as a side income stream. But
Okay.
to your earlier question, yes, it's absolutely a release. And part of it is also recognizing that, you know, the money that I make in my side ventures is that's about my investments, but that's also about my fun, right? Like that's
Right.
how a big
Right.
part of how I've like financed a
Right.
really terrific lifestyle, in my opinion. And, you
Right.
know, knowing that if I put in the work there means
Right.
I'm going to Bali in a couple of months, it's like a pretty exciting sort of proposition. So it's
Yeah.
not just in the moment, but it's also the anticipation and the knowledge that this is going to predicate some really exciting things that are ultimately going to come down the pipe in time.
Yeah. Well, that, excuse me, that is a sweet thought. Uh, I love that you, excuse me, I love that you love to travel. I'm sorry that COVID has probably brought that to a screeching halt for you for a while. So you're probably, sorry to use another Ozarks euphemism, but you're probably pawing at the gate, waiting to get on that plane and get the heck out of Dodge, right?
I will tell you, you know, I'm very excited for the opportunity for the world to go back to normal at some point. And as soon as, you know, I will be fortunate to get my second dose of vaccine soon. So, you know,
Oh,
maybe
so
that's
you've
going
already
to,
had your first dose.
I mean, you know, part of the benefit, I will go to the hospital every day,
Sure,
right?
sure, sure. Yeah.
Like I'm in it. So like,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that is important just in terms of like one being an example for my team, an example as one of the leaders for my organization, but also in my mind, it represents the first steps, hopefully, towards a return to normalcy. And
Right.
certainly, to
Right.
me, getting back on a plane, sitting in first class on my way to some exotic locale, because that's absolutely going to
With
happen.
the laptop on your lap, pressing refresh like
Yeah.
a
Oh,
crazy
yeah. Hey,
man.
got to pay for that trip somehow, right?
Come on, bro. Hey, you got to make that money make money. That's how you got to do it. Hey, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed this. I I um I think I had a teeny weeny little interest in coins born into my heart when I was really, really small. I remember my mom took me to her jewelry chest and she brought out a silver dollar. And she said, "There's one for you, and there's one for Keith, and there's one for Kevin. And these were given to you when you were first born by my aunt," she says, which would be my great aunt, her aunt. And she said it was my favorite aunt. And when she heard about your birth, she sent the silver dollar
Oh, I
for
love
you to keep forever. Well, I still have that silver dollar to this day. And uh, years and years later, my mom had forgotten to give them to my brothers. And years and years later, I found them and I said, "Mom, you send this to Keith and you need to send this to Kevin." And so she's like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about, yeah, I'll do that." And so she did. When my brother passed away in Montana about a half a dozen years ago, we were going through his place and trying to get everything settled. And I found that coin. And so I think there's always been a little bit of a little emotional fondness to me in the idea of collecting coins or the idea of looking at coins in a different way than just transacting a business across the countertop. So you've really refreshed my heart tonight. I love it. I've enjoyed getting to know you. And I love talking about ways for money to make money. You probably have been in Amazon Seller Tribe long enough to hear me say there's money all around us. And aren't we fortunate that we have learned ways to tap into that and make money work for us?
Yeah, I mean, I feel one of the ways that we were in particular uniquely blessed is COVID was a tough time for a lot of people, but if you were an e-commerce seller, man, you might have had such an amazing ride over
Come
that's not to
on.
say that life wasn't tough and rough in a lot of other ways, but
Understand.
man, my business was boom. And
I know. I
uh,
know. I was talking to a seller one day and I said, tell me, like, your sales were amazing. Tell me um, how you did this. And, he kind of looked at me and he said, well, you got to have a pandemic. It's like, we're happy to be in the right place at the right time and rode the wave. So, um, so glad that we're hopefully looking at maybe we're rounding third and heading home on the COVID scenario. That'd be nice.
let's hope. Let's hope. The other thing that I'll say, so it's been an absolute pleasure, but I'll do this tribe a solid for sure.
Mhm.
The next time I'm planning to buy a coin, I will post there first. So I'll let everybody else, maybe get their chance at the ring. I will have done the homework to tell you that I feel comfortable enough that I'm going to try to invest my money in this. So, if I strike you as someone who's credible, like, you are welcome to try and join that train. And believe me, it's a lottery. So that me telling, a few hundred more people, I don't think is going to significantly have an implication on my ability to secure a coin. It's
Right.
still going to be just as hard, but I would be thrilled if someone else can enjoy the ride as a result of being a part of the tribe. That's
How
my way to give
awesome to
back.
think of that. How, that's really exceptional that you had that thought. A lot of people would go, gosh, I don't want to tell anybody else about this because I don't want any more fingers clicking that button and potentially taking the coin away from me. But I think you do understand there's a little element of chance and luck in there that kind of worked in your favor. The cards fell your way that time, didn't it?
You betcha.
You're solid gold, Assad. You really are.
You're sweet.
Andy Slammons, if you're listening right now, you were spot on with this, bro. I'm telling you, I owe you one for this. But that doesn't mean that if I get that next coin because of Assad giving me the tip, that I'm going to give it to you, Andy. I mean, I love you, but not that much.
Man.
I'm teasing. All right. Thank you so much. That was it's been a delight to hear this and kind of refreshes my mind sometimes. Just think of something a little different than Amazon and still think of ways to make money. So hopefully, guys, you've enjoyed this webinar tonight. I hope that you will also do me a solid, Amazon Seller Tribe members, and don't blow up Assad's PMs with questions about what you've heard tonight. Just go ahead and use his webinar as a jumping off place to do your research and just decide if this is something that interests you and you might want to learn more. It might be a great hobby, might be a great stress reliever from time to time, but don't blow up his PMs. If you will, that would be so kind and also respectful to him and the high stress and extremely important position that he has um, in his hometown. And at the same time, gosh, we love having you in Amazon Seller Tribe. Come out there and poke the tiger every once in a while. When Jameson comes out with a handful of tacos and a handful of Pokemon cards, that'd be a good time for you to come on
All
and
right.
poke the tiger, okay?
I look forward to it. And you know what? I'll do my best to not be so, I'm not shy, as I'm sure everybody can tell after
Can
the
tell. You're a little busy. I can understand that.
but I'll dedicate some more time towards building some community because I love the group and there's a bunch of great people in there. And I
Thank
really
you
want to
so
get to know
much.
more of them and hear about their journeys too.
Well, I've enjoyed getting to know you. So, high five, COVID high five, boom, high five until we meet again, and hopefully sometime soon we can meet face to face.
All right. I'll see you again.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks. Bye.